Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Eric Livni. I represent the EBRD, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, based in Tashkent, covered Central Asia and Mongolia. Our panel today is not so much about private sector. It's more about the countries of Central Asia. We'll go almost to every single one of them. Imagine a virtual visit to Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, even Turkmenistan, and of course we are in Uzbekistan. We are missing Kazakhstan on the panel, unfortunately, due to a last-minute dropout of the speaker. We have government representatives on the panel. We have one representative of a business association, an IT business association in Kyrgyzstan. We have Bill representing the OECD, the Eurasian Department of the OECD, and we have Yuri Aronsky representing yourself and the Union of Economists of Turkmenistan. So I don't want to make it too formal. I think the names and the titles, everything is in the program. Let us begin. I think we can begin, right? Please confirm the organizers that we can begin. Anybody? I think, yes, we can. Okay, wonderful. So we really want to go into each country and visit them, so to speak, with the help of our speakers today and see what is going on. Remember, we want to touch upon digitalization, but also inclusion or inclusivity, which was discussed before. So how these two go together. We need both in a way. Sometimes we have neither. Sometimes we have one, but not the other. And in the best case scenario, we might have both, digitalization and inclusion. So let me start with the least obvious, perhaps, but the closest to me. Let me start with Turkmenistan and Yuri Aronsky. We think of Turkmenistan as the most closed and isolated country in the region, one that probably is not very well IT integrated, developed, and so on and so forth. But as I hear from Yuri, and I had the chance to talk to him, some things are improving, even in Turkmenistan. So let us hear from Yuri a little bit about the changes that are now happening in Turkmenistan, a country of 9 million people, I think, but 9 million. So Yuri, even less. So the microphone is 5 and something. So the microphone is yours. Yuri will speak in Russian. So if somebody doesn't understand Russian, please have a headset ready.
Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги. Как уже сказал Эрик, я представляю Туркменистан. Я работаю в Национальном общественном объединении Союза экономистов Туркменистана. Дело в том, что у нас очень мало национальных организаций. Поэтому наша организация, она как федеративное государство. То есть есть целый ряд отделений, различной направленности. И одно из отделений – это отделение цифровой экономики. Сегодня я в своем выступлении больше остановлюсь именно на цифровизации и IT-технологиях в Туркменистане. Но с чего хочется? Хочется начать с общих слов, сказать, что сейчас практически во всех странах мира, богатых ресурсами, а Туркменистан именно такой страной является, поняли, что только за счет эксплуатации ресурсов тяжело добиться хороших результатов в условиях почти непрерывных экономических кризисов, социальных, политических. И поэтому все страны в той или иной мере сейчас с разными немножко скоростями, но начали развивать другие области, диверсифицировать свою экономику. И одно из направлений – это цифровизация. В 2014 году в Туркменистане было принято 2 закона, которые касаются инноваций. Один так и называется об инновационной деятельности, а второй закон о научно-технических парках. То есть это те законы, которые лежат в основе дальнейших работ в данной области. Но пик и наибольшая активность работ в отношении цифровизации началась с 2019 года, когда правительство утвердило сначала концепцию развития цифровой экономики на период с 2019 по 2025 год, а через год после этого вышла программа развития экономики, уже более детализированная, на период с 2021 по 2025 годы. На стадии разработки концепции был такой период, когда в основном собирались данные, накапливалась информация и выслушивались предложения других организаций, что и как можно сделать. И вот уже в программе эти все основные вещи нашли подтверждение. Я хочу сказать, что на середину 2022 года из 75 основных направлений, записанных в этой программе, частично или полностью начали работать 57 направлений. То есть, мне кажется, это неплохой результат. А сама структура программы, она делится на 3 таких основных блока. Первый блок – это цифровая экономика для государственного сектора нашей экономики. А государственный сектор в Туркменистане, он достаточно развит. И, скажем, все такие отрасли, как нефтегазовый комплекс, энергетика и ряд других, они как были, так полностью остались государственными. То есть частных инвестиций там нет, и допуск туда частным лицам практически запрещен. Вот. Здесь у нас в первом блоке достаточно сильно показано, вот, и ведутся работы в области электронного правительства. Дальше ряд региональных внутри страны цифровых программ предлагается по разным областям. Вот. И также в областях здравоохранения, социальное обеспечение, культура, образование выделены отдельные направления. Второй большой блок – это бизнес, цифровая экономика в бизнесе. Акцент здесь делается на ускорение бизнес-процессов, появление виртуальной конкуренции. Вот и здесь также работа достаточно неплохо идет, хотя без особого контроля со стороны государства. Вот. А я просто хочу назвать такую цифру, что больше 75% населения, трудоспособного населения у нас работает именно в частном секторе. То есть это область, которая затрагивает большое количество людей. И третье направление – это цифровая экономика для граждан страны. Вот оно выделено в отдельное направление, поскольку все понимают, что основной эффект от цифровой экономики, он прежде всего ложится на конкретных граждан, которые могут значительно сильно улучшить целый ряд своих функций, процессов, упростить именно за счет цифровой экономики. Вот. Ну, при всем при том, что сейчас процессы идут достаточно успешно, конечно, хотелось бы сказать, что у нас существует ряд ограничений, которые немножко тормозят развитие экономики, цифровой экономики. Но прежде всего это небольшая скорость интернета. К сожалению, Туркменистан находится в группе стран с невысокой скоростью интернета. Это тоже является, пусть не главным, но фактором, который влияет в определенной области. Второй момент – то, что у нас не ко всем информационным ресурсам интернета есть свободный доступ. Вот. Какие-то ресурсы закрываются, какие-то открываются. Я пытался установить закономерность, лично мне это не удалось. Вот. У нас также только государственный провайдер существует, Туркментелеком. И одно его ответвление, но это, сути дела, не меняет, поскольку все в руках государства в данной области. Наверное, это не очень хорошо, когда отсутствует конкуренция и произвольная, довольно дорогой интернет у нас. Вот, то есть это все сказывается не очень хорошо. Но даже в этих условиях, которые я вам сказал, вот, все-таки, да, еще один момент, который я хотел обратить внимание, то, что в регионах существует больше проблем, даже чем в столице, в которой я живу, и с интернетом, и с другими возможностями. Вот. Вместе с тем, несмотря на это, я хотел привести просто ряд примеров достаточно успешной реализации отдельных вопросов. Так вот, моя организация, она уже 3-й год занимается в Туркменистане и координирует работу в области стартап-экосистемы. Вот. С каждым годом мы дополняем, видоизменяем эту систему с учетом ошибок прошлых лет. Вот. И где-то у нас больше 100 стартапов, вот, и около 500 молодых ребят, которые участвовали в этой работе. И естественно, что процент успешно реализуемых стартапов невысокий, вот, но мне кажется, что даже те ребята, которые просто поучаствовали в этой программе, у них на всю жизнь остается понимание, желание искать что-то новое, желание внедрять. И это само по себе достаточно важно в наших условиях. Кроме того, при поддержке ряда международных организаций и посольств у нас тоже в течение нескольких последних лет большая работа проводится для девушек и для женщин в области цифровизации. В частности, ряд хакатонов у нас проводится, а также такие программы, про которые, может, вы слышали, Technovation Girls. Вот. И в тех и других программах идут процессы обучения сначала девушек, женщин, вот, а затем различные конкурсы, соревнования. Сейчас, прежде всего, аспект на смартфоны, на подготовку и внедрение небольших, но, возможно, успешных программ. Значит, конкурсы по робототехнике, которые проводятся в мире, Туркменистан достаточно успешно участвует. Уже 5 лет участвует. Первые 2 года, как мне показалось, было больше пробными, то есть мы учились, набирались опыта, а вот в последние годы уже даже какие-то места призовые наши ребята занимают, то есть этот процесс идет. Вообще так, у нас немножко политика на обособленность внутренних интернет-ресурсов. В частности, вот сейчас разработана и внедрена своя электронная почта. На сегодняшний день там 35 тысяч, больше 35 тысяч пользователей. Вот. Более 1000 сайтов открыто, веб-сайтов. Из них 240 торговых площадок, которые работают прежде всего внутри страны, но достаточно много их в самых разных областях. Вот. В 2022 году, в начале этого года, открыт Центр доступа к образовательной информации при Министерстве образования Туркменистана. Еще одну минуту. Вот. И буквально самое последнее, вот сейчас в сентябре при помощи ОБСЕ у нас открыт Центр по кибербезопасности как самостоятельная организация. Вот. Что мне еще хотелось добавить?
What I would like to add, as I have some time limits, I thought that I would be able to speak a little bit longer. I will try to answer your questions later. In general, we have the development in electronic economy in Turkmenistan. We don't have constant statistics. We need to join them as mosaics and to have some general overview. And we have this direction developing, and I hope that we are moving at the right direction.
Thank you very, very much, Yuri. No, as an economist, I have to cover economic developments in Central Asia, and I've been doing that through the last 3 years. And so sometimes isolation, which is the situation of Turkmenistan, sometimes isolation is a good thing. You know, when the world is going crazy and you're isolated, actually it's not so bad. But I'm not sure it works for digital and digitalization, though. So this is something that I'm sure the country will have to continue working on. Let us move on to, just in this very natural order that has emerged, let's move to Kyrgyzstan. I've been working in Kyrgyzstan for many, many years, and if I have to come up with a one-line definition of what Kyrgyzstan is, I gave it to Abigail just before the panel. It's a lot of freedom and absolutely no order. So my question to Abigail is about Kyrgyzstan. What happens there nowadays in terms of digitalization and so on and so forth, but specifically the association that you are part of and you are executive director of is actually, as an association, one function of it is actually create order out of chaos. So I want you to reflect on this a little bit, specifically given the Kyrgyz background.
Right. Sure. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here and talk about my country. So I disagree with the statement.
It was meant to provoke.
Right. Yeah, we definitely love our freedom and we fight for our freedom frequently, every so often. But yeah, I just want to cover the tech part. So e-golf, digitalization, it's coming along. Actually, the team who was working on this, they went to Estonia and they were on like top list on making changes in the last 2 years. And then the election processes we are very democratic and really proud of it. And this election process is going with biometric. And yeah, the process is going smoothly. Right. So about the private sector, so our entire tech sector is very different from our neighbors. For example, in neighboring countries, it's been developed from the top to the bottom. In our case, it was developed from the bottom to the top, naturally. So a few IT companies, they got united, created KSSDA. It's the association. I'm head of this association now. And KSSDA created HCP, High Technology Park. It's like IT Park, Uzbekistan or Astana Hub, but we did it in 2011. So it's been a decade since we don't have oil and gas and access to the sea, but we turned out to have an access to the ocean, and internet became our ocean. And also another thing that we lack a lot of like large projects inside of the country.
Just to clarify one thing, so the tech park was created by the association?
Correct.
Also bottom up?
Correct.
Wow, that's very different from the other models.
Right. So civil society is strong, business communities are strong, and we were like making some conditions for our businesses, and it worked. Also lacking big project inside of the country, we were like, okay, we should export. So we basically gave a vector to the sector where to grow, like direction, and we encouraged them with really good tax preferences, and a lot of very talented programmers who are just, I don't know, coding in their apartments. They decided to register, and then they started growing really fast. And then in 2020, we had a number of 1 billion SOM used, and then in 2021, it was 2 billion SOM, and we are hoping to finish this year by 4 billion SOM. So we're having around like minimum 50% of increase and around 100% of pure export. It's like 94% is like pure export. And so if you talk about the export to the US, it's 300% yearly of increase to the US, and around 40% of entire export is to the US, and then Kazakhstan, Singapore, Japan, and other countries, they come along.
So you have exponential growth in services, not
right.
linear. I'm
Correct.
referring to...
Yes, but we think that this is like natural development where we do need to enhance the capacity of tech companies, outsource companies, because they are paying the bills, very stable. But the next step will be when you have this already pool of very talented engineers, programmers, then you can, work on startup ecosystem, because you will use these programmers and then they will be internationally competitive. That's actually worth of noticing that in 2018, we were on 35th spot on the Global Innovation Index on high quality ICT expert, ahead of Russia and other countries, which was like miraculous. But this is showing like how great is the potential. And if you've been working for a decade with like American companies or Singapore companies, of course you have to adapt and improve your business processes, English language, level of writing code and everything. So we had to adapt and became internationally competitive. This is our market, a lot of outsource companies, but startup ecosystem is just now being developed. It's like emerging. Of course, we would like to cooperate on this with Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan.
Yeah. Just one more follow-up question. I just happen to know other examples of coordination problems in emerging industries. For example, you take a country like a new wine countries like Australia or Argentina or Chile, they had a problem how to promote their wines to the global markets. And one solution they came up with is to actually cooperate. So they actually cooperated and they created even, I would say, PPP structure, which would allow them to reach, targeted markets and do so in a very cost-effective way. And I know that you also are engaged in marketing Kyrgyzstan and Kyrgyz IT industry, service industry, to more developed markets. Maybe you can share your experience in this regard.
Right. Yeah, thank you for your question. So this year we organized a business tour to the US, It was supported and funded by USAID and US Embassy and a few other partners. And it went really successful. So first of all, it's like our first joint project where Astana Hub and IT Park Uzbekistan, they help us spreading news and information partner. And then it was like official event in New York where we were telling basically to the US saying, hey, we are getting united. Central Asia is the next destination, was the name of the forum. And then, of course, we are studying like the experience of India, Belarus, Ukraine, Armenia in the sense of Armenia, Georgia in the sense of startup ecosystem development. And then, all of them, they have the commonalities, and a big role of their success was by diaspora, especially India. So a lot of people migrated there. They were like actively selling and hiring people in India, and also popularization in Bangalore. Like India is like did an amazing job on this. And then we also learned that how big is diaspora, right? Because if you just show up there and just tell to the U.S. Representatives, hey, we're STAN countries, do you want to export? They're like, oh, no, right? And it's very, we do have image crisis as STAN countries. They do have association with Afghanistan, and they are really freaked out. So when we are saying Central Asia, of course, later on they will find out we are STAN countries, but for naming and branding, it's great. And also not just that, but also like trying to fix your image crisis in the world is like very, very expensive, and time consuming. So that's why it's like really, really needed to get united. And then it's not just like image crisis, but also like preparing the programmers. So for example, in here, there are some senior, middle, junior developers. But if you go to the US, senior developers here will become maybe strong junior in the US, right? So like the quality should be increased, and in all of these efforts, we should get united. We also went to Seattle and California, and then we managed to get attention of big tech representatives and also top outsourcing, outstaffing companies. And then they really, really liked the companies, and they are planning to organize a trip here because they want to see if we are not living in the yurts still, but they really want to see infrastructure and so on. So we'll be organizing this trip.
Thank you very much. I think the next step is to market the stands together, all the stands together. They all have an image problem, so we should all go together and market yourselves as emerging host countries and destinations for investors. Thank you very much. I will skip Irakli because I want to go to another Central Asian country. I want to stay in Uzbekistan for that matter, and we have Bigzod Kasimov here representing the IT park of Uzbekistan. I live here for a year, and I visited Uzbekistan for the first time in 2010 actually, so it was 12 years ago. I went to Samarkand, and the thing that struck me when I was walking to the Jewish synagogue in the community here, I was struck by how clean everything is. There's not a single piece of rubbish lying on the streets, and I was like, wow, what is going on here? Especially coming from Georgia. Sorry, Irakli, that was quite a bit of a contrast. And I was told that the Uzbeks are extremely well organized, even at the community level. So if you go to any community they call mahalla, they will be extremely well organized. They take care about their environment. So it's a very different setup compared to Kyrgyzstan, where everything is bottom up. Here, it's organized, it's top down. And IT Park is a government initiative. It's not a spontaneously grown, something that has been initiated by IT companies. But it's doing an amazing job. And Bigzod is here to tell us a little bit about Uzbekistan, maybe, and then what the IT Park specifically does. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. It's good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. I hope your trip will be both fruitful and full of bright colors, despite the weather last 2 days outside. Returning back to IT Park, I've prepared some speech last night, and Eric came and told me that
no speeches, please. No speeches.
Yeah. So I will, let's do it in freestyle. IT Park, that's a special economic zone. We are actually LLC, but 100% of shares are belong to the Ministry for Development of ITC. We think that we are doing good, well, despite that fact that we have been established 3 years ago, and 4 years. So how fast the
Time flies.
Yes. So 4 years in 2019, we've started in 2 rooms of the University of Inha in Tashkent. That's an IT university. But now we have a real huge complex of buildings. It's like 7 hectares, and that's we've preparing really nice infrastructure for the company. So about the performance of our performance of IT Park, we are trying to be in touch with our regional partners. We are trying to be in touch with young generation in order to seek new ideas or feedbacks from them how we should move forward. And we also being in close contact with the state because without the state doing all this, operating in regulation aspects, that would be really hard. That's the initiative of the state, of His Excellency President Mirziyoyev, to be precise, and that I think that makes our life easier. I mean, I mean IT Park employees. We are trying. We have really huge framework. It starts from international operations. For example, I'm the manager of international operations and expert support. So we, as I said before, we are the special economic zone. We have resident companies, and for your information, today we've reached the number more than 900 companies. So, and this year we've reached the export volume of more than $80 million US dollars.
Can you give us a sense of the dynamics, how quickly the population of companies grew?
Well, just before the ICT week, we were doing the presentation. That's a small case. On Monday, that was like 820.
On Monday?
No, 2 weeks ago, on Monday, that was 820 or something. And just 3 days ago, when I was updating, it's like more than 900. Wow. I said, wow. I would like to clarify that after the circumstances in Russia, we've really big, very big the stream of the IT companies and IT specialists to Uzbekistan. We are trying to help them. We are even organized transfers from airport to Tashkent to hotel. We're providing them SIM cards because that's the initial starter pack for foreigners. Another thing, we are trying to invite all other companies by ensuring them that they will be fine with us because we are providing them tax incentives, privileges. For example, the resident companies of IT Park, they are paying only one tax. That's tax for from personal income.
Yeah, it's personal income tax.
Yes, personal income tax. Even in this tax, we have deducted more than half. For example, the residents of IT Park are paying only 7.5%, while non-resident companies paying, if I'm not mistaken, 13%. That's one of the example which we are providing them. We also created really nice things, for example, virtual offices. So the companies does not require, we are not required them to open the physical place. So they can only open the virtual office and that's it. Another thing that we've achieved this year, IT visa. That's a special kind of visa which are given to the three types of people: IT specialists, investors in IT field, and not owners but founders of companies which are residents in our IT park. And for sure, I would like to underline no work permit for foreigners. That's really wonderful. For example, for one employee, you have to pay for a year, approximately $850 for only for one employee. So the resident companies of IT Park are not required to provide work permit.
Oh, this sounds fantastic. I mean, the only one thing you can learn from Georgian experience that you don't do is to offer bottles of wine in the airport.
We have, Eric, we have, not similar, but from this opera, let's say, stuff, we've trying to show them our traditions, but we've also organized, we have even organized a wedding ceremony to show the foreigners, who just came like last week or month, to show our traditions, real Uzbek traditions. We've organized fake wedding ceremony. We've booked a restaurant, one big restaurant. We've booked, just, for example, if I didn't know before, I thought, whoa, that's a real wedding.
But it was fake.
Yeah, that was fake.
Listen, I have one serious question though. We're talking about inclusion in this panel, among other things. You know, the companies, the 900 and something companies that come here, do they come with their own workforce? Or do they also create jobs for locals? Do you have any statistics on that? I mean, what share of the labor force is actually local?
I wish I'd call my colleague from resident department, but I know, but not, I think that's not really, it would be approximate answer.
Yeah, that's okay. We take approximate numbers.
Nowadays, we have like more than 900 companies, and there are more than 50,000 employees.
Wow.
50,000, and half of them even more. Usually, I've observed that the companies which are coming from outside, they are moving only their seniors and middles. And they are trying to employ juniors from Uzbekistan, local ones. And I think for a long term, that will bring its fruits. Our juniors will gain the experience from really nice IT specialists.
And will become real seniors as opposed to fake seniors.
Yes.
Sounds good. Let's move to Tajikistan, if you don't mind. And we have Farhod Boboyev, right?
Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Tajikistan is also a country I cover as an economist, and it's actually, when I first came there, I had very low expectations. For some reason, you read maybe a lot of negative press about Tajikistan, but if you haven't been there, I'm going to tell you, it will surprise you. It is a very dynamically growing country. We talked about the region being young. Let me tell you that Tajikistan is the youngest. It has the highest fertility rate, very high percent of young people in the population. And I see a lot of drive. You can see it even by eyeballing the developments in Dushanbe and outside, a very dynamic development. And I was very happy to hear about the initiative that Farhod is representing, the digital, it's called the Smart City. And Smart City in Dushanbe is essentially an equivalent of IT Park, but let's hear about the nuances, how different these are. It's also a state initiative. Tajikistan is similar to Uzbekistan in terms of top-down, bottom-up, but it probably is somewhat different. So Farhod, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
A little bit closer to the...
Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, guests, participants of this wonderful forum. On behalf of Smart City Dushanbe, Tajikistan, and on behalf of myself, I welcome you all to this wonderful forum.
Please keep the microphone closer.
Sorry. How should I turn the slides?
Yeah. Is it working?
No, it's not working.
Not working.
No. So I just want to say that you told me that no notes, but I'm sorry that I have to use my notes. And I just want to say that the transformation of modern cities through the information technology into smart cities is mega trend of our time. The main goal of smart cities is to create comfortable and most
Just keep the microphone closer, yeah.
eco-friendly living environment, which requires the use of a variety of technology and technology solutions. There are significant interest and potential for complete digital transformation of Tajikistan. From technology companies to e-government, smart solution, and etc. And Smart City is a young organization which was established in 2019 by His Excellency Rustam Imam Ali. And the aim of the Smart City is which that uses digital technology to improve the standard of living efficiency of activities and provision of services in the city for the guests and also for citizen of capital of the Tajikistan. while ensuring that the needs of present and future generation are met in economic, social, cultural, and environmental aspects. ICT has become the main tool of increasing competitiveness in every field of economy and life. Therefore, any national strategy of development plans should be taken into account the opportunities offered and challenges by posed ICT. And above the national strategy of Tajikistan, by 2030 covers the use of ICT in various areas of life and policy and such as ICT in state or businesses. The focus of the future will be creating environment that facilitate the use of ICT and development of smart city solution in Dushanbe, Tajikistan in general. The ultimate goal is to increase the economic competitiveness and well-being of people and efficiency of public administration. Digitalization of Tajikistan, which I said the covers in the ICT by 2030 is cloud computing, IoT, big data, AI, and 3D printing, blockchain. I heard that in the first section of our plenary discussion, they have been discussing about the blockchain and 3D printing and big data. So this is also our strategy of the national level of Tajikistan. It's not working again.
That's it?
No. The remote is not working. Yeah. The activity of life and enterprise is aimed. Enterprise of the smart city is aimed to solving the urban planning issues. Equipment is with ICT, investing in countries' infrastructure as well to ensure civil safety, protect public order, increase profitability, investment, and economic development. The main areas, actually the slide is now working, the main areas that which we are working on, it's education, healthcare, agriculture, and all the smart solution which is for the, next slide, this one, which is good for the people. And one of the aim of the smart city is to develop the e-governance in the particular of the development of public services. And Dushanbe, Tajikistan leads the way in the government, e-government, and also in use of the public services. This is one of the main priority of the smart city at the moment. That soon in future we will.
I just want to clarify. Smart city, what is the concept? It's like an institute, publicly financed institute that develops all these solutions, or it's similar to the IT park in terms of attracting private sector companies to settle and to become residents?
The smart city is government. Smart city is government. So we belong to the mayor city of Dushanbe. So we belong to the Dushanbe city administration. So whatever the smart city does, so it will does for the citizen of Dushanbe and also for guests of Dushanbe that who will
Right.
visit Dushanbe.
Oh, I understand.
And one more thing that whichever the project that will be done successfully, so it will be hand over to the other big cities and even though the abroad.
Oh, I understand.
Next slide, please. And yesterday I was talking to Mr. Motkin and he was saying about the broadband, and this morning you mentioned also about the broadband and internet in Tajikistan. The communication network is available in the most region of Tajikistan. There are still various locations that do not have the fastest internet, but supporting and looking ahead with the private market services providers to develop broadband network in such areas in order to provide service to the end users. And in conclusion, I would like to say the smart city solutions are aimed to develop and building sustainable cities and communities, ensuring decent work and promoting economic growth through digitalization. Without digitalization, smart city is nothing. This is my personal opinion.
Well, it's
And-
probably a fact.
Yeah. And I'm convinced that this forum will also become a platform for summarizing the experience of digital innovative development between all of us, because I know there's a lot of people that attending in this forum. So I believe that we will have experience exchange, and I express my confidence that during the work of forum, the participant will be able to exchange view and develop practical recommendation to smart cities, and also not to Dushanbe smart city, but to all the smart cities around the world, that will provide all important aspects of development and innovative approach in this area. And at the end, if you allow me, I want to thank the organizer of this forum, and I want to thank the Samarkand, Uzbekistan. I want to thank to all of you. Thank you very much for all whoever is participating in this forum.
Thank you very much, Farhod. Bill, I'm leaving you last to provide a sort of bird's view perspective. Let's go to Irakli Kashibadze. I know Irakli for many years, actually. I used to live and work in Georgia over 15 years, in fact. And I remember sitting with you, Irakli, in the Marriott Hotel and participating in the brainstorming of Georgia's innovation strategy. And Irakli went on to become the first head of the Georgian Innovation and Technology Agency, JITA. And since then, he moved on to establish his own private company and is now helping accelerate digital development all over Central Asia. So maybe you can share your perspective, Irakli, given that you worked in a number of countries and you have seen how acceleration works in different contexts. What is special to each of the countries you worked in? You know, what mistakes have been committed and what were the greatest successes as well?
Thank you, Eric, and I would like to thank organizers for inviting me and wish them success. It's a great event. What I would like to say that the whole region is under the big challenges and the problems, and we don't have so good perspectives. By the way, the ITU is using the terms. It's called used for many years. ITU is an International Telecommunication Union, the organization of UN, who is responsible. This organization is responsible for coordination and development of ICT and information society in the world. And they are using terms called digital divide. But now what we see in not only in our region, but in many countries in the world, it's an innovation divide. This innovation divide becoming more and more bigger. Imagine that in 2028, 18 billion US dollars invested in 20,000 startups in the whole world. But how many startups got financing from all these venture investors in the world? From our region? I think not so much. And it's a challenge for us. Doesn't mean that we just spoke about this yesterday, that we have a lot of talented people. We could do the great things and we could achieve a lot of interesting results, but we don't have small pieces of what is transforming us to the global players. And only the cooperation between the region and what we are doing now, it's with support of ITU, I created an organization called the Startup Central Eurasia. And this organization is trying to help all the countries and join the resources for the development of a startup ecosystem. We already done the several steps. We united the informational channels, and now you can see from our website, www.startupcentraleurasia.com, all the news is from the region about new technology startups, information about events, also get the guidebooks how to enter to the countries. Yeah, we also united the startup database, but not only this, it's enough. We also should work about the joint startup programs like we discussed yesterday. We also should use our connections because, for example, our company has great connections with Skydeck, with UC Berkeley. And it's very important connection for our region to get the best knowledge in the world. The Kyrgyzstan is making the great things, and they have very interesting creative development, and there is a lot of interesting achievements in the field. Uzbekistan has the goals about 1 million coders, and now there is a huge deficit of IT specialists, especially in Georgia, because big companies entered to our country, like EPAM and others.
You said that especially in Georgia.
Yeah, especially in Georgia, and you can find even IT specialists in Georgia. And it's creating a very bad situation for the small companies, for the startups. It's good for the big companies, and this process will grow. The big companies, the rich people will become richer, and there will be no chance for smallers to make some even things, because IT service is also becoming more expensive, and we need to think about this. We need to cooperate in this kind, and we, for example, should use the million coders from Uzbekistan, the great specialists from Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, still. They are cheaper than in other countries. Yeah, and from the perspectives for the region, yeah, I think we also are thinking about this, that we should think also about development of corporate sector. We should have more corporate acceleration program. We should teach corporates, and especially we should teach rich people that not only you can get the money by building these nice hotels or apartments. You could get 5–10% of your own capital and invest into the startups. And I provide you the example for Georgia. I established this innovation agency in Georgia. Nobody believes in innovation for the 2013, and I think it's not only I think, but many organizations think that it's one of the most important reform after Saakashvili in Georgia for the innovation ecosystem development. And the government invested only $10 million into the startups in Georgia. And already in 5 years, the return is 100 million. We had a great exit last year for 50 million USD dollars, and the Georgian startups. The US company bought the Georgian startups for 50 million USD.
Which one?
Pulsar AI. And now this stuff is working for the American companies.
Artificial intelligence company?
Yeah, it's an artificial intelligence company, and these guys, they got first finance support from the government, from the project Startup Georgia, which I created, and yeah, these people now they're investing in startups. These startups now started investing in the startups. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Actually, quite inspiring. Quite inspiring.
And one thing that's it's great development of Turkmenistan. We are working with them. We are helping to develop the startup accelerators. We are working with Kyrgyzstan and helped also to develop innovation center in Kyrgyzstan. And yeah, we'll be glad to also help other countries with our platform, Startup Central Eurasia, and we are here. And please, yeah, we could exchange our ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I must say, Irakli, that since you became a private sector guy, you became a very different person. It was very good for you. We now move to the last panelist who will have the privilege of trying to summarize. We discussed earlier what specific perspective to take, and it's really about the conditions. What are the small pieces that Irakli mentioned? What are the small pieces that have to fall into place in order for countries to be successful in transforming themselves? And I think William is very well placed to provide this kind of perspective, having done, as part of the OECD, some comparative analysis. So I think it was focused more on Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan as a comparison, but go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Eric. I think I'll start by suggesting that what we really might need is a sort of Central Asian synthesis in which the top-down activity is focused on creating the conditions in which bottom-up entrepreneurship can really happen. Because top-down institution building can be very effective. Top-down entrepreneurship rarely is. So there's a synthesis on this stage that we should be aiming for. For the moment, I want to leave aside the really specific work we've done comparing internet speeds and access and so on, except to make two really important points that we observe in the region. One is that overall speeds are slow. That's been commented already today. But the critical point is that my colleagues who work on this in the Science, Technology, and Innovation Directorate are very clear that speed is absolutely crucial to the business case for all kinds of digitalization. And they have all these wonderful graphs that if I had a PowerPoint, I would probably show you. Speed is not just a matter of convenience, it's a question of commercial viability. And that brings me to the second general point, which is that there's much more penetration, growth, and profit in mobile broadband, but that involves higher costs. We still have tremendous bottlenecks to rolling out fixed broadband, which is still a really urgent need across the region. And I could go into numbers, but what I'd rather do is talk about the broad framework conditions. And here I mean really broad, zooming out from IT stuff, which is not my métier, to talk about the horizontal whole-of-government approach that's required for the digital transformation. And even OECD governments struggle to get this. It's not just about technology and infrastructure and maybe skills. It's also about competition policy, regulatory policy, public governance. It's about even trade policy. As I commented to Eric the other day, roughly 80% of the IT hardware that is sold in the average market around the world is of foreign origin in terms of value added. 80% of the value added of what you buy has crossed borders. It's one of the most globalized value chains. So every trade barrier we create is a barrier to digitalization. And by the way, it's a barrier to digital inclusion because the people least able to handle those barriers are naturally those least well off, those least well located. And so skills, competition. Skills is another area where we see an issue in Central Asia, in Kazakhstan, and especially in Uzbekistan. We'll hear more about Uzbekistan from my colleague later, Celeste Laporte-Talamont. But there's a national digital strategy, but the kind of labor force needs assessment in it is thin. And in most countries, when we talk to them about skills for digitalization, they're thinking about producing more IT specialists. Not a bad thing to do, but not nearly enough. It's also about the skills of everybody else to be able to adapt and to work in firms that are digitalizing. So we need a broader vision on that. And I guess in order to move on from framework conditions without talking until dinner time, I just want to make two crucial points. One is the horizontal nature of the activity underscores the degree to which it is not a substitute for all the other basic structural reforms we need to pursue. Because particularly when you're talking about digitalization of the public sector, service provision, administrative procedures, and so on, I know from personal painful experience living in France, if you digitalize a bad procedure, you just make it worse. because you eliminate the possibility for human intelligence to correct the defects or address the fact that, as often happens with me because of my status.
I know people who moved out of France for this very reason.
I can tell you stories about falling into categories that were not foreseen. I actually had an extra COVID vaccination because the sanitary pass system was screwed up, and after 6 months of trying to find a solution, my doctor said, it's been long enough, get another shot. It will be easier to get another shot than to fix your pass. So that's the first message. It's not a substitute, it's an incentive. You've got to get the other stuff right. And the last point, because I always love to turn to my favorite 19th century analyst, economic analyst, and that's Lev Nikolaevich Tolstoy. Все счастливые семьи похожи друг на друга, но каждая несчастная семья несчастлива по-своему. All happy families are alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. Why is that? Because to have a happy family, you need a large number of things to be good enough. None of them have to be perfect, but they have to be good enough, right? You need decent health, enough income, relationships have to work fairly well. None of them have to be perfect. But of course, as soon as something goes badly wrong, the child dies, the father beats the mother, the parents divorce, there isn't enough money and they're going hungry and losing their home. Any number of failures. And framework conditions for investment in almost any sector tend to work like Tolstoy's happy families. And I stress this because I frequently at the OECD, not just in this sphere but in many, I observe countries working very hard to get better and better at what they are already good at because there are policy bottlenecks that prevent them from addressing the real weak points. And so my guidance to policymakers is always figure out what's really not working. Otherwise, you're spinning your wheels. And so, that horizontal approach has to involve a readiness to confront really hard things. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill, especially for invoking Lev Nikolaevich Tolstoy, my number 2 writer, not number 1. But, well, I'll let you guess. Now, I don't know if we have any time left, do we? Can anybody among the organizers tell us? Because we started late. We can? Is there a question in the audience? Is there? Raise your hand. Is there anybody else? There's somebody behind you. Yeah, please. Sorry for... Please introduce yourself.
My name is Ainur Kuatov. I'm from Kazakhstan. I am head of state-owned fund of funds, which is called Kazna Capital Management. And I want to start by giving credit to Kyrgyzstan. It is by far is the most democratic state when it comes to the will of people. So my question is to Avigali. Do you get substantial financial support from the government in the form of venture funding or any other subsidized funding? I mean, residents of IT Park, which you were speaking about. And another question is, do you actively participate in reforming your legislation? Thank you.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. It's a great question. So the first one, do we get funded from government? So our high technology park, it was taken from Belarus HCP, but we changed it, made it more democratic, because in there it's assigned by president. Our director of HCP is elected by tech community. It's also democratic. And then people and the companies who are joining HCP, they give 1% of their revenue to HCP. So it's self-funded, 100%. And for KSSDA,
100% self-funded.
Yeah. And KSSDA, our association, we have, so again, there's like not much financial support. Thank God they accepted the law in 2011. It was also signed by woman president Rosa Isakovna in 2011. So she did a lot for the tech sector comparing to male presidents. So KSSDA also didn't have funding in the beginning, but then we created our own businesses under our association. It's a non-profit, but it's enough to sustain all the activities we do, and we work on enhancing capacity of tech companies, on organizing business tours, media promotion of Kyrgyzstan, attracting. We are actually working with 5 countries now. It's OAE, Japan, Korea, Germany, and the US. And then also we have educational centers which belong to association in the regions, and also we help the government on a lot of processes on digitalization tech education. So yeah, both organizations are funded by themselves. They have it's self-sustainable. And the second question, we do work with legislation. At the moment, I'm really proud of our neighboring countries, how they worked with venture investment law, startup, so all the necessary laws for developing startup ecosystem. We are a little bit behind at this, but we are working now on lobbying this venture investment law. And of course, we were thinking of course, we encouraged experts, but there are a lot of companies who asked for incentives for local companies. And then this year, again, civil society, it was roundtables in the beginning, and then later on it turned into a bill on creative industries. It's really, we're proud because there are now analogs around the world. So it's around 40 plus spheres which they have tax preferences. So it's video editing, music production, filmmaking, designers, tech startups, they also can join, and it's a large sector that we are planning to develop. And as you know, Manas, we have this epic. This is one of the largest epics in the world, and we believe that preserving our cultural traditions plus creativity, and then we will go into creative economy. Yep.
Thank you very much for the question and for the answer. And there's one more, and I'm afraid it's going to be the last one as well. Please.
Hi, thank you very much for inviting. My name is Cameron, and I'm representing here the leading IT exhibition in the world, GITEX in Dubai. I have a question to all of you in the panel. I've heard some examples of exporting the services, IT services. So would you be able to give some advice, some examples of exporting products, and how actively developing you in your countries the IT products rather than services, please?
So the question, it's clear, yeah? Anybody is able to give any examples of products being exported from your countries? We just heard about an exit, which can be counted as an export.
Yeah, thank you for this question. The Innovation Agency developed a product called Access to Market. And this product and program supports Georgian startups through providing some financial support to attending some kind of exhibitions, for example, in US, in Silicon Valley, and also to meet with different venture investors in Silicon Valley. Yeah, it's like a financial support and program from the government. But from the commercial perspectives, yeah, of course, we discussed this topic. It's very expensive to have a Silicon Valley house or some other houses in the biggest market. And I think here it's also important to have some cooperation for such kind of promotion of regional products on a global market. And it's not cheap. That's why we should split some
do we have the products?
Yeah, of course we have a lot of products which might be exported abroad. It might be interesting for global users, but again, we need to learn how to sell or how to marketing, and we need expenses.
Great. Yeah, I'd like to add, answer the question. We do have some of the companies who managed to go to the US. It was really hard because the competition is very crazy in there, right? So we have a marketing tool for Shopify. They work with 70 plus countries, prevailingly the West, the US and Europe. So they help businesses to sell on Shopify. So it's like a product. They have around 100 plus developers. And then there are a few companies. They also sell fintech products abroad. And then there are a few projects, but oftentimes it's another problem that they go under somebody else's name because people are really freaked out of stunts. So they sign NDAs. But this fintech product is also, they're selling themselves in a really good way. Another fintech product was in top 10 in the US. But again, they are going under US. But research and development is in Kyrgyzstan, and like developers are really, really high quality.
Bill, are you also in the business of exporting products?
I'm not. I just want to throw out one observation because I can't suggest a product except one of the other areas that I didn't mention, which we have identified as an issue in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan both, is the framework for intellectual property rights in digital. There's still much to do there, and if you really aim to be exporting not just services but products, this is an absolutely critical issue.
All right.
Yep.
So it's time, I believe, has come to conclude this session.
May I make a small announcement?
Oh, please, Iraq.
Yeah, and I would like to use this opportunity, and in 24th, 25th of November, we have a great event of Startup Central Eurasia in Baku, and we are inviting all of you, and we could contact the Anastasia, my colleague, she is here, please, yeah, Anastasia, and also me, and we'll provide you information about this great event, and great to see you all. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, thank you, Iraq. Oh, and another self-promotion.
No, not self-promotion. It could be very helpful to startups. So together with Astana Hub and IT Park Uzbekistan, we will be holding a very interesting Central Asian Tech Awards ceremony. So we are to identify the best startup, the best outsourced company, the best school of the region. I will not be spoilering, but the prize is going to be really, really good. And then this is another effort of ours, one of the efforts of getting united as a region. So this is an award ceremony, and then we are planning to bring interesting speakers. So you're welcome to follow up and participate in this awards, and then maybe some of you will be the winners. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Anybody else wants to promote himself? Last chance.
Not promoting, but I just have a question. When is the next stop of the strategy is?
What's the next stop of this train?
No, of this forum, next stop.
Which country?
Yes.
This question has to be asked.
And I have a proposal. So
to have it in Dushanbe.
That would be great if we can do it in Dushanbe next year.
Fabulous. I'll make sure your proposal is delivered to Anatoly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like to summarize very quickly and focus on just one issue that is very close to my heart. You know, I said I'm an economist, but I didn't say that I spent most of my life in education, in fact. And we spoke about skills, we spoke about the situation when large companies enter markets. What happens, of course, is they poach the best developers from smaller companies. What also happens is that salaries, wages increase often to levels beyond what small companies can afford. Now, this is actually, in some sense, a good thing, because if salary levels go up in a certain industry, it means that young people, and very young people, will make an even harder effort, you know, to enter that kind of industry, to acquire the relevant skills and become developers, or maybe acquire some other skills that Bill spoke about. It's not just about coding, right? So this is good. It provides incentives for young people to become whatever makes more money and brings more benefits. But from what I observe in Central Asia, the problem is that we have a very nice, fast development at the top of the education pyramid. We have excellent, Kazakhstan would be my example, we have excellent Nazarbayev intellectual schools, and we have some excellent IT programs at universities that cater to the needs of a very small percentage of the population. Very small. You know, you go to Uzbekistan again, we heard about 4 IT universities. We heard about maybe some fantastic programs, we'll hear more today, like Astrom, that do amazing things. We heard about 1 million coders coming online. But still, you know, there's a huge gap between the quality of education, it's not just about Uzbekistan, that is provided to the well-off kids from the well-off families, people who can afford private tutoring, schooling, and whatnot, and those at the bottom. And we talk about young populations, strong demographics. We forget that at the bottom, there's a lot of people left out. And they will not be able to become not coders and certainly not algorithm developers. This requires some real hardcore knowledge of math and whatnot. So this is where a lot of effort has to be made by all the involved, and to make sure that education, is delivered at the fundamental level to the entire population, not just a few kids here and there. I know you want to react, but please, very quickly.
Thank you, Eric. Your speech just reminded me that one of the parts of my written speech was about the education. So I would like to know that, as you said about the education, I do agree that education is the cornerstone, the initial step that should be taken. And we in IT Park, we totally believe that first of all, before as the person questioned about the product, before the products comes, we have to set up the education. In field. This year we'd like to know that we've opened IT Park University. That's the first digital university in Uzbekistan. We've established it with our friends at EPAM Systems. So I think, and I do believe that when we are giving quality education to the young generations, for sure the number of products will be outweigh than the volume of the services that has been expert.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you very much.